Words of our Divine Mother says, open yourself to the new light that has dawned upon earth, and a luminous path will spread in front of you. With love and blessing, says our Divine Mother. Words of our Lord Sri Aurobindo, continuation from the topic Realization, 3 Successive Moments, from the All India Magazine of November 2009, subtopic Identity. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, all this knowledge and experience are primary means of arriving at and of possessing identity. It is ourself that we see and experience, and therefore vision and experience are incomplete unless they culminate in identity, unless we are able to live in all our being the supreme Vedantic knowledge. He am I. We not only see God and embrace Him, but become that reality. We must become one with the Self in its transcendence of all form and manifestation by the resolution, the sublimation, the escape from itself of ego and all its belongings into that from which they proceed, as well as become the Self in all its manifested existences and becomings, one with it in the infinite existence, consciousness, peace, delight, by which it reveals itself in us, and one with it in action, formation, play of self-conception with which it garbs itself in the world. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, it is difficult for the modern mind to understand how we can do more than conceive intellectually of the Self or of God. But it may borrow some shadow of this vision, experience, and becoming that inner awakening to nature, which a great English poet has made a reality to the European imagination. If we read the poems in which Wordsworth expressed his realization of nature, we may acquire some distant idea of what realization is. For first, we see that he had the vision of something in the world, which is the very self of all things that it contains, a conscious force and presence other than its forms, yet cause of its forms and manifested in them. We perceive that he had not only the vision of this and the joy and peace and universality which its presence brings, but the very sense of it, mental, aesthetic, vital, physical, not only this sense and vision of it in its own being, but in the nearest flower and the simplest man and the immobile rock, and finally that he even occasionally attained to that unity, that becoming the object of his meditation. One phase which is powerfully and profoundly expressed in the poem, A Slumber Did My Spirit Seal, where he describes himself as become one in his being with earth, rolled round in its diurnal course with rocks, stones, and trees. Exalt this realization to a profounder self.
La plus rigide, la plus étroite, la plus suffocante, j'ai touché un ressort tout puissant qui m'a projeté d'un seul coup dans une immensité sans forme et sans limite, où vibre l'essence d'un monde nouveau. the very bottom of the unconscious, most hard and rigid and narrow and stifling, I struck upon an almighty spring that cast me up forthwith into a formless, limitless vast, vibrating with the seeds of a new world.
And Lord Sri Aurobindo says, exalt this realization to a profounder self than physical nature, and we have the elements of the yogic knowledge. But all this experience is only the vestibule to that suprasensuous, supramental realization of the transcendent which is beyond all his aspects, and the final summit of knowledge can only be attained by entering into the superconscient and there merging all other experience into supernal unity with the ineffable. That is the culmination of all divine knowing, that also is the source of all divine delight and divine living. Guidance to sadhaks. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says such a passage from the human to the divine, from the divided and discordant to the one, from the phenomenon to the eternal truth, such an entire rebirth or new birth of the soul must necessarily involve two stages. One of preparation, in which the soul and its instruments must become fit, and another of actual illumination and realization in the prepared soul through its fit instruments. There is indeed no rigid line of demarcation in sequence of time between these two stages. Rather, they are necessary to each other and continue simultaneously. Next topic, discovery of the soul, the first step of self-realization. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, to be ourselves liberated from ego and realize our true selves is the first necessity. All else can be achieved as a luminous result, a necessary consequence. That is one reason why a spiritual call must be accepted as imperative and take precedence over all other claims, intellectual, ethical, social, that belongs to the domain of ignorance. The first step is the discovery of the soul, not the outer soul of thought and emotion and desire, but the secret psychic entity, the divine element within us. When that becomes dominant over the nature, when we are consciously the soul, when mind, life, and body take their true place as its instruments, we are aware of a guide within that knows the truth, the good, the true delight and the beauty of existence, controls heart and intellectual by its luminous law, and leads our life and being towards spiritual completeness. Even within the obscure workings of the ignorance, we have then a witness who discerns, a living light that illumines, a will that refuses to be misled and separates the mind's truth from its errors, the heart's intimate response from its vibrations to a wrong call, wrong demand upon it, the life's true ardor and plenitude of moment from vital passion and turbid falsehoods of our vital nature and its dark self-seekings. This is the first step of self-realization, to enthrone the soul, the divine psychic individual, in the place of ego. Our Divine Mother says, every human being carries hidden within him, the possibility of a greater consciousness which goes beyond the bounds of his present life and enables him to share in a higher and vaster life. Indeed, in all exceptional beings, it is always this consciousness that governs their lives and organizes both the circumstances of their existence and their individual reaction to these circumstances. What the human mental consciousness do not know and cannot do, this consciousness knows and does. It is like a light that shines at the center of the being, radiating through the thick coverings of external consciousness. Our Divine Mother says the discovery of the psychic being is a personal matter, and a great determination, a strong will, and an untiring perseverance are indispensable to reach the goal. Each one must, so as to say, trace out his own path through his own difficulties. The starting point is to seek in yourself that which is independent of the body and the circumstances of life, which is not born of the mental formation that you have been given, the language you speak, the habits and customs of the environment in which you live, the country where you are born, or the age to which you belong. You must find in the depths of your being that which carries in it a sense of universality, limitless expansion, unbroken continuity. Then you decentralize, extend, and widen yourself. You begin to live in all things, in all beings. The barriers separating individuals from each other break down. You think in their thoughts, vibrate in their sensations, feel in their feelings, live in the life of all. What seemed inert suddenly becomes full of life. Stones quicken, plants feel and will suffer. Animals speak in a language more or less inarticulate but clear and expressive. Everything is animated by a marvelous consciousness without time or limit, and this is the only one aspect of psychic realization. There are others, many others. All help you to go beyond the barriers of your egoism, the walls of your external personality, the impotence of your reactions, and the incapacity of your will. But as I have said earlier, the path to that realization is long and difficult, stern with snares and problems to be solved, which demand an unfailing determination. It is like the explorer's trek through virgin forest in quest of an unknown land, of some great discovery. The psychic being is also a great discovery, which requires at least as much fortitude and endurance as the discovery of new continents. A simple few words of advice may be useful to one who has resolved to undertake it. Our Divine Mother says, the first and perhaps the most important point is that the mind is incapable of judging spiritual things. All those who have written on this subject have said so, but very few are those who have put it into practice. And yet, in order to proceed on the path, it is absolutely indispensable to abstain from all mental opinion and reaction, give up all personal seeking for comfort, satisfaction, enjoyment, or happiness, be only a burning fire for progress. Take whatever comes to you as an aid to your progress, and immediately make whatever progress is required. Try to take pleasure in all you do, but never do anything for the sake of pleasure. Never get excited, nervous, or agitated. Remain perfectly calm. Remain perfectly calm in the face of all circumstances, and yet be always alert to discover what progress you still have to make, and lose no time in making it. Never take physical happenings at their face value. They are always a clumsy attempt to express something else, the true thing which escapes our superficial understanding. Never complain of the behavior of anyone unless you have the power to change in his nature what makes him act in that way. If you have the power to change him, instead of complaining, whatever you do, never forget the goal which you have set before you. There is nothing great or small once you have set out on this great discovery. All things are equally important and can neither hasten or delay its success. A Divine Mother says, thus before you eat, concentrate a few seconds in the aspiration that the food that you are about to eat may bring your body the substantive needs to serve as a solid basis for your effort towards the great discovery, and give it the energy for persistence and perseverance in the effort. Before you go to sleep, concentrate a few seconds in the aspiration that the sleep may restore your fatigued nerves, bring calm and quietness to your brain, so that on waking you may with renewed renewed vigor, begin again your journey on the path of the great discovery. Before you act, concentrate in the will that your action may help or at least in no way hinder your march forward towards a greater discovery. When you speak, before the words come out of your mouth, concentrate just long enough to check your words and allow only those that are absolutely necessary to pass, only those that are not in any way harmful to your progress on the path to the greater discovery. Our Divine Mother says, to sum up, never forget the purpose and goal of your life. The will for the greater discovery shall always be there above you, above what you do and what you are, like a huge bird of light dominating all the moments of your being. These are the words of our Lord Aurobindo and our Divine Mother.